Hey, Jonathan. The Jonathan. 40-minute TVT, and we are here to see what went wrong. So the easiest way to get to whatever went wrong is non-sequentially, baby. You fast forward to the point at which things went wrong, and then you rewind and try to figure out how you got to that point. So you went for 1 racks fast expand into 2 more racks, it looks like. 3 more racks, so you're doing a 4 racks no gas opening, which is the same opening that Nick and I do. 5 racks and then double gas, so I don't know about this 5 rack stuff. You know, in Heart of the Swarm, they added a new statistic at the end of the game. Percentage of the time, or no, the total cumulative number of seconds of idle production time. So, like, every time you have a building that's not currently building something, then that counts as a second per building of idle time or whatever. So, theoretically, as Terran, that should always be 0. Because you should build exactly enough buildings and always have them constantly pumping. And obviously, it never is 0. But really funny, as Zerg, theoretically, it should be like 5 hours. So every game I play with Zerg, I get like 5 or 6 hours of idle production time, because you want to save up larvae so that you can make remax all at once. And then you play as Terran, and it's like, you beat your average of 5 hours because you got, and it's like anything I get. So don't play both races. Anyway, the reason that I mentioned that is because I think as a Terran, you shouldn't be making more production facilities than you can use, and to make 5 racks, there's just absolutely no way that you'll be able to use all 5 this early. I mean, you should eventually have 5 racks, obviously, but don't open 5 racks. Or if you do, go 5 racks, 1 tech lab, no add-ons. That's another thing that I do sometimes. Because, like I said, in a million times throughout the history of the world, your army budget, the amount of money you have after you've made SCVs and depots left over to spend on army, is $500 a minute from 5 minutes to 8 minutes, and each naked racks is 125, whereas each reactored or tech lab racks is 250. So if you want $500 a minute of production, you only need 2 racks with add-ons up until 8 minutes, or 3 racks with only 1 add-on, or 4 racks with no add-ons. So either way, you don't need 5 racks before 8 minutes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I remember one of the things we left off talking about was that you should really be stealing builds from people, so that you get a build that's like completely efficient. I don't know if this comes from somewhere. I really kind of doubt it. And by people, I mean pro players. You should steal pro builds, because they make sure that every second is accounted for. So, you know, why go through that work and do it again yourself when you can just steal theirs? A little bit of idle time on that CC. You got the 3rd gas coming up, 4th gas coming up. It's weird for you to be on 4 gas before you've even finished your factory. You're not going to be able to spend all this gas, so I assume your gas by 11 minutes is going to be like 300 or 400. I don't know, though. Alright, starting a turret ring. Again, the purpose of your turret ring is to allow you to push out, and because you have no tanks and no medevacs, you don't want to push out at this point. So there's no point in this turret ring. This is a well-placed, good turret ring, and you've done a good job with this turret ring. But you don't want to build it until you're ready to push out. Also, I'm a little bit curious whether this turret is close enough to the edge. I think you might be able to just bypass this turret ring on this side. You want it to be as far north as possible, so right here. And then, you know. Yeah, so the reason that you're building a turret ring is because you're afraid of drops, right? But you have this watchtower, so he can't push your front without you seeing him. So you just keep half of your army in your main, the other half of your army behind these minerals, and then keep an eye on this watchtower. That's all you got to do. You don't need to make a turret ring. Anyway, you can if you want. It's not, you know, you're gonna build it again eventually anyway, so there's not that much harm in building it now. But you see how this drop, even though you had a turret ring, the drop does a bunch of damage? That's because your army wasn't sitting in your main. Until you're actively pushing out and attacking him, you should keep your army wherever you think it's going to be most needed. And that's not necessarily in the front, because, again, he can't attack you here without you seeing it. Da, da, da. So your turret ring did pretty good. Almost killed both medevacs. Now, right here, you attack with your workers. This is bad. So the moment he does a drop, you've got two actions that you should always be doing. You should have your whole army on a hotkey already, so you shouldn't need to look away from the drop at any point. Your camera should be on the drop, and you should hit that hotkey and attack move towards the drop, and then control click an SCV and go over here and right click that mineral, and then come back and mop up the drop, and then bring your SCVs back later. So don't be fighting with your SCVs like this. This is not good. So there, you just grabbed all your SCVs. I think you box selected them too. And notice how these Marines aren't coming. And I don't know if that's intentional or not, but if you were using your hotkey, which you do not have, this is a big deal. Like, because at any moment you might need your army to do something, and if it's not hotkeyed, then it's always going to take 3 seconds for it to react instead of 0. It just takes it much longer to react with an army when you have to go over and look at it. Sorry. So here you are, you're doing stuff, blah, 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 and the drop comes, and you grab your, see? So you see the drop on your minimap, and the first thing you do is you have to look down here, grab half your Marines, and then look back up at the drop. And then move your SCVs away, and then reselect your Marines because you looked away. And then all these SCVs die for no reason. You had more Marines than him. You never fight Marines with SCVs, even if you're desperate, even if the game is literally ending right now, because Marines rip SCVs to shreds, man, and SCVs aren't ranged, so they end up with the closest target, so they're going to take priority. It's just silly. SCVs are great. You always want to pull them against siege tanks. SCVs are great against immortals and stalkers. Anything that does bonus damage to armored or like good like big heavy hits that shoot really slow, those are all good things to soak up damage with your SCVs, because they're going to kill one SCV and that's going to soak up all this damage. But Marines shoot really slow. They're like Zerglings. You don't want to pull SCVs against Zerglings either. Anything that shoots quickly is just going to destroy SCVs, because they have like no armor and they're, you know, little noobs. Anyway, so at this point you got 31 to 48 economically. You're way behind, and the whole rest of the game is probably already decided, right? If we were going to pinpoint a moment when you lost the game, my bet is that it's right now, but let's find out if you ever caught up. And that's so needless too, because what are the things that someone can do that are capable of killing you when you're doing a Marine fast expand, right? You've got a tank push and a drop. So yeah, pre-positioning your army, leaving dudes in your main ready to respond to the drop, leaving dudes down here, and having everyone on a hotkey so that when you push out, you can bring everyone with you. Don't take a watchtower with 8 guys, right? Because either he's going to have 1 Marine on the tower, in which case 1 Marine from you would be able to mop it up, or he's going to have his whole army there, in which case the difference between 1 and 8 is not going to make, it's not going to help. You're going to lose either 1 or 8, and I'd much rather lose 1 than 8, right? So that was a little silly. You kill 1 worker in exchange for 8 Marines, like I said. This is another thing that we talked about in prior games. Your army should always be in one giant ball. You should never take 8 guys and do something with them, unless you're doing a poker harassment. And the definition of harassment is that you can get away, usually by like flying away. So you come in and maybe these units die, but they die in exchange for 10 workers, right? And the definition of a poke is you walk across the ground and you're ready to run away, and you run away without losing your army. So in both cases, the big deal is that you're getting away. If you're just going to suicide stuff, don't suicide small pieces of your army, because there's no way to force them to do damage. So this is the same thing as before. It looks like out of the blue his army is here hitting your third. The first time you ever see his army is when it's hitting your third. And this is bad. And you know what the reason is for this? You might think to yourself, this is because I didn't scout. I should have maybe held the southern watchtower. I should have maybe had a Marine out here scouting, right? Or just some way to know that his army is coming before it got here. I should have maybe seen this scan and reacted to it. Maybe you did see that scan. But And all of those are true theoretically, but I don't do any of those things either. You know, like scouting is hard, man. It takes additional actions. What you should really be doing is having your army in a position where if his army hits your third, you kill him, right? It's like that mutually assured destruction thing. So if you should never sit defensively with your army in TVT after about 10 minutes. So for the first 10 minutes, you fast expanded, you're a little bit weak, you can't afford to be over on his side of the map. But at about 10 or 11 minutes, whenever your third medevac is out, whenever you have 3 medevacs, which in this case you didn't make any medevacs, so in this case maybe 3 tanks. Whenever you have your tech units out, so if you're going for tanks and upgrades, then whenever you're 1-1 with stim and combat shields and you have a tank, which should be around 10 minutes, and if it's not, you're doing a silly build. You move to his side of the map, and you stand close to his base, and you let him know that you're close to his base, so that if he's going to attack, he's going to attack your army, right? Then you'll be trading army for army. You never want him to be able to do damage and get away, because that's what you want you to be able to do, right? This is what I was saying about poking. Like, you should always be able to get away. So he has stim and he has medevacs, and he could have gotten away if he wants to. So right now, theoretically, he should be running away because you obviously have more troops here than him, and so he can just stim and run away. So that's what's going to happen. So you see the difference? You took 8 Marines. There's no way anything good is going to come from that. And you left a bunch of stuff in your base, and the stuff that you left in your base, it's not helping because it wasn't protecting your third and your natural and your main all at once. It was just protecting this one spot right here. Like, okay, if he runs into that spot, great, but he's not gonna. Like, who would run into that spot? And you go out with 8 Marines and you try to get something done and you completely fail. You kill 1 SCV in exchange for 8 Marines, and that's dumb. He walks across the field with his whole army. He doesn't leave anything behind except his siege tanks, which are too slow to get away. By not bringing the siege tanks, he turns it from an attack into a poke. Again, poke means you can get away, so now he can get away. So he walks up there with the whole army that he had made, and then he reinforces to here instead of reinforcing to his army. And then he walks away. Notice the difference. Take the whole army. Always bring your whole army when you do anything. Because if you're forced to fight, you want to be fighting with your whole army. Otherwise, you're just going to lose the fight in a big, huge way. So you lose your third for no reason. This is the second killing blow, right? First killing blow, you lose 20 workers in the very early game. That's so big that you can't be expected to come back from it. The next killing blow, you lose your third after 15 minutes. And 15 minutes is when your main is already partially mined out. So anytime after 15 minutes that you lose a base, it's drastically impacting. You have 63 workers mining $1,500 right now. And efficiency-wise, we can do the math, man. 63 times 40 should be $2,520 a minute. And you're getting 1,500, right? That's tiny. So 1,500 divided by 2,300 is like 65% efficiency. You're practically... you're mining at exactly 2/3 efficiency right now because you lost that base. It's a huge deal. It's game-endingly huge deal, right? So those are the first 2 reasons you lost this game, right? First, you responded to the drop horribly, and you didn't prepare for the drop ahead of time. And then second, you didn't have your army in a position to counterattack or in a position to defend. So in both cases, your army just wasn't in a position to defend. The difference is that in the later stages of the game, you don't have to necessarily defend everything. You could theoretically trade instead of defending. But you have to do one or the other. You can't just have your army over here, because then if he attacks you here, you did nothing, you know? Finally, we're getting towards the max point, and you're almost completely on Marines. So my guess is that we're going to max out sometime pretty soon, and you're going to have a drastically smaller army. So this is the next fight. You're going to win this fight, but it's important to note army sizes, right? You've got a $6,500 army, and he's got a $8,000 army. And that's not just because he's maxed and you're not. It's because you made a ton of Marines. Ton of Marines. And then you didn't fight with them, right? You just made them, and you sat them there, and you hope that he attacks into them. Marines are $50 per unit space. They're really cost... I don't know how to say that properly, but you get the point. Your army is very small. So now he's going to stim up here. He's going to lose this fight pretty heavily. You've got better upgrades, a bigger army, and he's giving you defender's advantage, and he ran through a choke. So 3 reasons that he should not have done that at all. He massively loses that fight. You're way ahead on damage done at this point just because he's a complete and total moron. He even knew your army was there, and he still did that because he's dumb. But he was at 200 unit space, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're going for heavy marine play. If you max out, you kill off your army and then remax out. And you see how far ahead he is economically because of the advantages he got earlier on in the game. He's spent 3,000 more than you on army, and he has an additional 5,000 bucks in the bank. So he's so far ahead economically at this point that if he didn't trade armies right then, I would have called him a moron. So that was the bad way to trade armies. If I were him, I would have walked around the side and gone in here and tried to kill this small army. Or dropped here, maybe sacrificing a medevac to this turret. But whatever. The point isn't how well he traded his army. The point is that he actually did. So again, for the 8 millionth time, you're going to take a small piece of your army and you're going to walk across the field with it. This is better, again, by leaving the tanks behind. You're allowing yourself to retreat, but you don't want to retreat at this point. You're 200U, right? At 200U, you don't want to retreat. You want to fight, and fight to the death. So another thing I want to mention, you've got, it looks like, 2 Tech Lab starports making BCs. The BC transition is fragile. Okay, the way BCs work in TVT is that a 3-3 battlecruiser has no counter except for another 3-3 battlecruiser, right? Vikings can do okay, but it's so hard to use Vikings against BCs because if I have a bunch of Thors on the ground and you use Vikings to counter my BCs and then I just retreat, I can repair them. And they have so much health that you can't actually kill them before I repair them. And then it's... So basically, battlecruisers are the ultimate late game TVT unit, and you should always get battlecruisers if you get into the late game and you have infinity money. But you don't. You don't have infinity money. You have very little money compared to your opponent, and you have 70 workers, and... you don't have a lot of extra gas, and most importantly, you don't have a lot of tanks. So BCs are the ultimate unit in that army versus army, they make it so that your army can win. But that only works if you have a ton of siege tanks underneath them. And people can go around your BCs. They're very slow, and they can't kill an enemy base very quickly. They do very little damage, and they're very slow. Very little damage, very slow, high armor, high health, repairable, right? So they give you this unit that in a straight-up fight is awesome, but in every other situation is terrible. That means you need to provoke a straight-up fight, and you need to be able to win it on the ground with your BCs floating overhead. So you never want two BCs and a reactor starport with only one factory. You want 3 factories and 2 starports or something. You want a lot of factories, because underneath your BCs you have to have tanks, or tanks and Thors, but at least tanks. Without tanks, BCs are stupid. So again, you're 200U. I like that you're attacking, but I don't like the way you're attacking, and I don't like how much you're leaving behind. So this... Why would you ever attack all the way from your main to your enemy's third? It doesn't make any sense. What you want to do is take your whole army, put it in a giant ball, right? And as soon as you decided, which should have happened like at 16 minutes, as soon as you've decided that you're going to leave your base with your whole army, you need to make, what are those called? Sensor towers, so that you know if he's counterattacking you in time to take your reinforcements and go respond. You can't just be blind. Like, this is your vision right now. You've got no vision around any of your bases, so he can just walk up and kill a base and walk away. That's very dangerous. Anyway, so unsiege all tanks, make tanks in a giant ball, get marines in a giant ball, and then take your army, A-move to his third, grab 1 marine, stim it, then remove that marine from the hotkey, and then take your whole army and move to right here. So you want to go right here. So you want to move from here to here. You never want to move more than 1 screen at once. So you move 1 screen away. They're going to walk through this choke. They're going to turn into a giant Congo line, but then they're going to regroup down here. Then you move from here to here. Again, they're going to go around here through this choke. They're going to spread out. It's going to be very inefficient and very dangerous for you. But then they're going to clump back up over here. Then you want to go from here to here. Again, walking through this choke, walking around this corner, they're going to get all spread out, but then they're going to clump up again. Then you want to walk over to here. And then, now that your marine who ran ahead has an idea of what's in front of you, you can decide whether to stim and run up this ramp, or to go over here and try for this ramp, or to go over here and try to deny his fourth, or to go over here. But you want to be sitting in this position as a giant clump before you make any decisions. You never want to decide before you've even left your base where you're going and send everyone straight there because they end up in this giant line. So you see, at the point when your army is close enough to fight his army, how many of your troops are within firing range? One troop. You have one Marine in range to fire. And then you have to, like, you've lost tons of stuff before this back guy even arrives. By the time he arrives, he's the only one left. That's just ridiculous. That's not at all how you want to fight in any matchup. Having 2 full medevacs to presumably to carpet bomb on top of his siege tanks is theoretically a good idea, but you want to do that after you've decided where to go. So you don't want anyone inside your medevacs while you're crossing the field, because then what if he ambushes you? So you get 0 seconds warning and now your guys are fighting. You want them to be already in a ball, already everyone on the ground, already everyone ready to fire. You don't want to have to think about stuff when you get ambushed. So again, you're trying to do this multi-pronged drop harass, and I am all for multi-pronged drop harass in theory, but you never want to do it when you know where his army is and that army is where you're dropping. You never want to drop on where his army is. So this is a good drop because you did it at the same time as this push at the front, and you did it in a place where you knew that his army wasn't. So these guys are doing tons of damage. This is great. That's a good drop. The second drop over here, you fight here and then you drop here? What? You know his army is right there. That's silly. Also, BCs cost $700 and they take a full minute to build. If you are making BCs, don't fight. I'm not going to say unless, just don't fight while you're producing BCs. It's $700 that's just not able to fight because it's inside of a starport. It makes no sense to fight when you're making BCs. Need gas at this other base. You have very little gas, which you might think of as a good thing. I'm spending all my gas. No, it's a bad thing. It's late game. You need to be making gas units. You're not mining gas here. You're not mining gas here. You're only mining gas on one base, which means that you're stuck going mass marine. Like you can't do anything else. You have to be massing marines at this point because you're not mining gas. You're also like, it's 23 minutes into the game. You're just taking your fort. That's not terrible, but it's pretty bad. But luckily your opponent is also just taking his fourth too, so it's like you guys are equal in that regard. But yeah, you want 2 bases by 12 minutes and 3 bases by 3 bases by 12, 4 bases by like whenever your natural runs out. Because your natural is going to run out at 15, right? I mean, your main's going to run out at 15. Your natural is probably, with a fast expand like this, probably going to start running out at 16 or 17 minutes. So that's when you need your fourth to be going down to make up for the fact. Because you always need 3 fully mining bases. And you start off with 3, but then as these 2 run out, you need to replace them. Anyway, this fourth should have been a lot earlier is my point. This is silly of him again. I don't know what he's thinking. PFs have a lot of armor, so Marines just don't do well against them. And especially not clumped up in a giant ball. Like, this is not a good idea. Anyway. Your army composition is getting slightly better. You've got some BCs and some tanks, but again, you've only got 1 factory and you're not using it. So you're basically just making Marines and BCs. And Marine BC is not a composition. It doesn't work. It might work if your opponent sucks. Economically, you're still screwed. I believe that he's been mining more than you, like, all game. You just now started mining more gas than him, which is cool, but then he knocked down your PF. And again, twice in a row, he attacks this PF, and your army is nowhere to be seen. Why? Right? You're probably thinking, this is the most important place for me to defend. I'm going to keep my army here. But if you have that sort of mentality, then you're always going to be losing bases. You can't defend all 4 of your bases. But what can you do, right? If you're too spread out to defend all 4 of your bases at once, what do? You do what he's doing. You pin your opponent. You say, look, if your army attacks me, you're going to lose your main because I've got a whole bunch of troops standing right next to your base. That's how you defend all 4 bases at once. So that's why all high-ranked TVT games end up with a giant siege line somewhere, usually next to one of the player's bases, right? Because if you don't have a giant siege line somewhere, there's nothing to prevent them from just doing 1,000,000 drops at once, right? The reason, like, the only way to prevent a Terran from running around knocking down your bases like this is to say, look, if you take this many troops out of your siege line, I'm going to kill it. You have to have a siege line next to his siege line and be ready to push through. And then he'll feel obligated to leave his whole army there because he's afraid of you pushing through. So There's only two ways to not lose a bunch of bases in TVT. You can either do mech, where you get enough tanks and you spread them out in multiple places. So you get like maybe 5 tanks here and 5 tanks here and 5 tanks here, and that's a huge percentage of your army. So you're completely incapable of attacking in any way. But at least you're defended. You're not going to lose any of those bases. And then what you do there is you max out on a high-value army, and then you unsiege all the tanks at all your bases, and you join them in a giant ball, and you go kill your opponent. That's one way to do it. And the second way is the counter-attacking way. You keep your army close to his base. You constantly attack into his army with your army, and that's what prevents him from being able to do this sort of damage. You never want to leave a tiny group of Marines behind as your defense. You know, like I can see in your mind, he keeps attacking me. I don't have any forewarning. I don't have time to get my army in position. I need to have something there to defend. I will put some Marines. It doesn't work. Because if he attacks you with 85 Marines and you have 9 of them here, they're just going to instantly die and not even kill a single thing. So, yeah. Either 5 siege tanks at each base, or don't defend your bases. Get good vision of where his army is moving around to and defend it with a mobile defense, or be ready to counterattack. Those are the only options, man. I smell baby poops. I have babies that live in my house and they poop sometimes, so that's why I smell baby poops. This is terrible. Again, magic number of siege tanks is 5. If anyone ever has more than 5 siege tanks anywhere, you are no longer allowed to use Marines in that location. So he has more than 5 siege tanks. He sieges them up. You run your Marines and they all die. He comes over here and kills your BCs. This is just silly. And another thing that I've already said is BCs are pointless without armor upgrades. You got +2 air upgrades. Don't do that. They don't need air upgrades at all. Armor upgrades are the only thing that matters for BCs. And you can get air upgrades. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you should always prioritize armor over air. And also, BCs don't work without tanks underneath them. You didn't have any tanks here, so your BCs all just kind of died for no reason. And now he's snowballing through you and kicking your butt. So I anticipated that this game would come down to money because he got such a huge economic lead early on. But honestly, I don't think money played that much of a role, because even though he got tons more money than you, he just kept it in the bank. He didn't use it because he didn't need to, because every fight he never lost any troops. The only time he lost any troops was when he ran up this ramp like an idiot. That's the only time he lost any troops. Every other fight, he won by a landslide. And so his economic advantage was pretty irrelevant. He didn't need to use that money to do anything. You notice how he can take this base and he can take this base and you're never going to kill them? You notice how different that is from you? Like, as soon as you take another base, he comes and kills it. Why is that? Why does he feel comfortable attacking this base, but you don't feel comfortable attacking his bases? It's because his army is standing right next to it. He's moving around with this army all the time. So you know that if you go attack his base, his mobile army is going to come and crush your PF, so you don't want to move out. Well, it's like it's dual-pronged, both reasons for the same thing. Anyway. Again, you left these 8 Marines here. They kill 1 Marine and do nothing else. They killed 3 Marines, 4 Marines, and then they all died. So now you're finally counterattacking, but you're counterattacking with a tiny group of Marines into a giant group of siege tanks. And then everything's going to die. So, yeah, I don't want to watch the rest of this game. It's pretty clear what's going to happen from here. So, summary, right? Every Terran you ever play against is going to open with either a drop or a full-on attack. You should always prepare for both. You prepare for the full-on attack by knowing it's coming, by having scouting information out here at the Watchtower. You prepare for the drop by having half your army in your main and half your army in your natural, standing near your workers. Because the only thing a drop can do that will really hurt you is kill workers. If it fails to kill workers, it's an unsuccessful drop, even if it kills 2 racks and 3 turrets. Who cares? Even if it kills both your refineries. Oh no, no one cares. So protect your workers, and you have succeeded. That is like all you need to know about drops. Second thing, turret ring a little bit early. Again, if your whole army is sitting in your main and he drops, you're going to kill his army. That's awesome. You want him to drop at this point. Building a turret ring before you're ready to push out is discouraging a drop when a drop is actually the best thing that could possibly happen. You want him to drop, so making a turret ring is bad because it's going to convince him not to drop. Third thing, once you have your first 2 or 3 tech units, I'd say 3 tech units, In this case, siege tanks. Usually I would go for medevacs first, as if you're going this many Marines, what's the point in getting just 3 siege tanks? Once you have your first 3 tech units, go be on his side of the field for the rest of the game. You should never again be on your half of the field. And the reasoning there is that if you come over here and you have siege tanks sieged up and you like float a racks to get vision of the high ground, he's going to feel such immense pressure that he's not going to do drops. He's not going to attack you anymore. He's not going to expand. He's not going to do anything but worry about the pressure you're putting on him. And don't try to win with that pressure. Just put pressure on. That's it. It has to be constant pressure, but it doesn't necessarily have to do anything. So then, if he does counterattack, you immediately kill him because your army is like at his base already putting pressure on him. And then finally, never take less than all of your army and do anything with it. Don't take a tiny group of Marines and walk over to his side of the map because they're just going to die. It doesn't matter. This group, for example. And then finally, your defensive arrangement is silly. You need more than one factory. You need a lot more gas coming in. You were very gas light throughout most of the game. You never took the gas over here. You just want more high-tech units, and you want to use them to do cool things. If you're going pure Marine, you need to be going mass medevac. And if you're going for tanks, you need to get a lot of tanks. And use your tanks. Your tanks, like, if you count the number of kills that these tanks that you made, like, over the course of... They lived the whole game. So over the course of, like, 40 minutes or less, like, maybe 30 minutes that they were alive, they probably got a total of 0 kills. And how is that helping you? You know, they don't do anything. Except for that one time he attacked into them. And they got 3 kills each. In order to pay for itself, though, a tank needs more than 3 kills. How many does it need? Like 5, 6, 7? 7 kills. Anyway. And then again, you took, you did a multi-prong drop. But one of the prongs was in a place where you knew his army was. Never do that. And also, you attacked across the field in a giant Congo line, so you just immediately killed it. Never do that either. You want to attack in giant balls. Also, you attacked while making a BC. Never attack while a BC is in production at $700. It's not part of your army. Never get air upgrades, air attack upgrades. Get air defense upgrades or nothing. And take your 4th earlier and be ready to defend any base that you have. You have to either, like, once you have this base, the most likely place for him to attack is right here, right? He might attack here, but it's very unlikely. So what you do is you defend this base by holding this watchtower. And then you put your army right here. If he attacks into your 3rd, you walk over there and defend. If he attacks into your natural, you walk over here and defend. Because this is further from your natural than your 4th, you need to have lots of forewarning, which is why you hold that watchtower. And if you're not comfortable holding watchtowers, you can put up sensor towers. It's the same general idea, but your army should be equidistant from all of the places where he can attack it. And it was not. It was all over here in the silly place. And I think that's it.